I had recently decided to move to a new apartment. The place was quiet, somewhat secluded, but affordable for my pocket. The first week went by quite normally. Everything was in its place, and I felt like I had made a good decision. But then, one night, at exactly 3 in the morning, my phone rang. An unknown number flashed on the screen. I hesitantly picked up the call, but there was no voice from the other end. There was complete silence. Then, suddenly, the sound of a slow, deep breath rang in my ears. My heart started pounding, and I immediately hung up. The next night, again, at the same time, at 3 in the morning, another call came from an unknown number. This time, the same slow, deep breath. No words, no conversation, just the same horrible breath. I blocked the number, but the next night a new number, and then another one, the night after that. Every night, at exactly 3 in the morning, the same sound. I started to worry all day long. I felt like someone was watching me, no matter where I was. I told my friends about it, but they laughed and said it must be a joke, some childish prank. But one night, during a call, there was a faint sound of laughter accompanied by breathing. This laughter was so terrifying that my blood froze in my veins. I decided to record it. When I listened to the recording, there was a whispering sound accompanied by breathing and laughter that I couldn't understand. The words were blurry, as if someone was speaking from afar. Since then I have been lying awake at night, afraid to sleep. I changed my SIM card, thinking that maybe this would solve the problem. But that night too, at 3 in the morning, the call came. This time there was no number on the screen, just unknown. I ignored the call, but then I heard a light knock on the door. This knock was so slow and light, as if someone was waiting. I didn't open the door. I didn't have the courage. When I checked the door in the morning, a note had slipped out from under it. It read, "You're a good listener." My heart sank. I immediately called the police, but they said they couldn't trace anything. They thought I was probably overthinking it, or that it was just me imagining it. I had an extra lock on my door, but the fear didn't subside. At night, I would hear the same breathing sounds in my dreams. One night, I unplugged my phone completely and turned it off. But at 3 in the morning, the phone rang again. It was coming from inside my apartment. I woke up in fright and followed the sound to the living room. There, my phone, which was turned off, was lying on the table, its screen flashing. At that moment, there was another knock on the door, but this time the sound was louder and louder. I stood still. Silence fell, but then another note slipped from under the door. It's my turn now. My body was shaking. I locked myself in the bedroom, clutching the phone tightly. Suddenly, my phone turned on by itself. A video call began. No name, no face on the screen, just darkness. Then, slowly, the camera turned on. The video showed my own door from the outside. A dark, shadowy figure stood there, not knocking, not saying anything, just breathing. I held my breath, as if any sound could break the moment. The dark shadow on the video call screen was still standing outside my door, motionless, just the sound of deep, slow breathing now, ringing in my ears. My phone, which I was holding tightly, was shaking in my hands. I tried to turn off the screen, but the touch wasn't working. It was as if the phone refused to obey me. I pressed the button, tried to turn off the phone, but the video call continued. The dark shadow on the screen was now slowly raising its head, as if it were looking into the camera or, perhaps through me, into my heart. The silence in my room was now a burden. Every little sound, a gust of wind, a slight creak of wood, or the sound of water dripping from a pipe somewhere far away startled me. I squeezed myself into the corner of the bedroom, my back against the wall, and still held the phone in my hand, even though I hated it now. The video call screen suddenly went dark. For a moment I thought it might be over, but then the screen lit up again. The camera was now inside my apartment. It was showing my living room. The same couch, the same table, the same switched-off phone, still lying on the table. But the camera was moving slowly, as if someone was grabbing it and moving it toward my bedroom. My heart was pounding. I looked at the door, which was still closed, and the extra lock was on. But then, there was a faint scraping sound, like someone was slowly turning the doorknob. I stifled my scream, but my breathing was so rapid that I thought the person or thing could hear it. The camera on the video call was now very close to my bedroom door. On the screen, I looked at my door, and from under it appeared the same note that had slipped out just a moment ago. It asked my turn, but this time, there was something else on the screen, a hand, slightly blurred, moving toward the doorknob. I threw the phone to the ground and covered my mouth with my hand so that no sound could escape, but at that moment, the light in the room flickered slightly and went out. It was now complete darkness, except for the blue light of the phone screen, which was still shining as it lay on the ground. The video call was still going on, and now that hand on the screen was clearly gripping the handle. A faint sound came from the door, as if someone was trying to open it. I closed my eyes, thinking that maybe this was all a dream, a nightmare that would end. But when I opened my eyes, the door was slowly opening. In the darkness, a tall, black shadow stood in the door frame. His face was not visible, but the same sound of breathing, the same one I had heard on the phone every night, now echoed in my room. I tried to scream, but my voice was caught in my throat. The shadow slowly moved forward, and with it the same scene appeared on the phone screen as if it were recording its own presence. I gathered all my courage and jumped out of bed and ran to the closet, opened it, stepped inside, and closed the door. Inside the closet, the darkness and the narrow space frightened me even more. But there was no longer any sound from outside. No breathing, no knocking, nothing. I held my breath and waited. Minutes passed, but the silence persisted. Finally, I plucked up the courage and opened the closet door slightly. The room was empty. The door was still open, but the shadow was gone. The phone was still on the floor, but its screen had turned off. I dared to get out and pick up the phone. When I checked it, the video call had ended, but a new note popped up on the phone screen. I'm always close. Later that night, I decided to leave the apartment, but as I was packing my things, another call came in again at 3 in the morning. Again, the same breathy voice. This time, I picked up the call and shouted, "Who are you? What do you want from me?" A voice came from the other end, for the first time light, rough, and terrifying. The words sent a chill through my body. I threw the phone away and started to prepare to run out of the apartment. But when I ran to the door, it was closed and another note slipped out from under it. "You not going anywhere." I looked at the door where the note had just slipped. My breath had stopped, and the silence in the room had become a pressure that was now gripping me. The note read, "You're not going anywhere." The words were written in black ink, as if a child were writing with laughter, but there was a terror in it that made my blood run cold. I grabbed the door handle and pulled hard, but it wouldn't budge. The extra lock, which I had installed myself, was now my prison. My eyes darted around the room, trying to find a way out, a place to hide, or a weapon. But the room was empty, except for the phone that was still lying on the floor, and its screen flickered once more. I plucked up the courage and picked up the phone. There was a new message on the screen. "Look, I'm behind you." My heart sank. I slowly turned my head, but there was nothing there, just the blank wall and the closed door. But as soon as I looked back at the screen, the video call started again. This time, the camera was inside my room, and it was showing me my own face, my own movements, as if someone were recording me at the same time. But where was the camera? There was no camera in the room. I tried to scream, but my voice caught in my throat again. Suddenly, the room's lights flickered again and went out completely. In the darkness, I heard the same breathing sound closer, now more distinct. It was no longer coming from the phone, but from right behind me. I didn't dare turn around. Instead, I threw the phone to the ground and ran for the door again. This time, I pulled the door open with all my strength, and it swung open. But as I ran outside, I saw that the hallway was empty, but at the end of it, a dark shadow stood. Its face was still invisible, but its presence was a terror that gripped me. I didn't look back. As I descended the stairs, my legs were shaking, but I didn't stop. Reaching the main door of the building, I opened it and breathed in the cold air outside. There was no one on the street, but I felt like I might be safe now. I took my keys out of my pocket and ran to my car. But as soon as I got in the car, my phone, which I had left in the apartment, suddenly started vibrating in my pocket. I took it out, and on the screen was the same video call now. It was showing the inside of my car. In the back seat, the same dark shadow sat, and the sound of his breathing was now right next to my ears. I screamed and opened the door and ran out of the car. On the street, I hailed a taxi and told him to take me to the other side of the city as quickly as possible. The taxi driver asked me a few questions, seeing my condition, but I just said that I needed to get away. When we reached the busy part of the city, I breathed a sigh of relief. But as soon as I reached into my pocket, my phone vibrated again. A new message appeared on the screen. "Wherever you go, I'm with you." After that night, I turned off my phone completely and moved to a new city. I changed my address, my number, even my name. But every night, at 3 in the morning, I feel a breath echoing in my ears. Sometimes, when I wake up in the middle of the night, I feel like someone is standing outside my door, just waiting. And sometimes, when I sit in the silence of my new place, I feel like those shadows are still with me, always close, always watching.